Thanks for staying with us. So joining us to speak on the state of Nigeria's economy, which is the biggest issue for Nigerians today, is a financial advocate, a leading authority on Nigeria's financial and economic sectors. And in a layman's view, he will be speaking on the future, also responding and putting clarity to gray areas in the economy. He will also be fielding all questions surrounding the nation's people understanding exactly what's going on. Welcome with us, Mr. Ugochukwu Obi Chukwu, the founder, CEO of Naira, also known as Ugo Dre. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Same here.
So one of the reasons why your view is different from all other shows on Nigerian television, when you watch your view, you understand really hard, complex, thorny issues easier. We break it down to the average Nigerian to understand. So let us take a few steps back and even understand what is going on in our economy. Everything Nigerians know is that it's bad. Things are expensive. They remove subsidy. They floated the Naira. There's back and forth with when they said Dangote would help us produce fuel and it's be cheaper. Dangote increases fuel. There's issue. It's still expensive. So people are just confused. All they know is that it's expensive in the market. So let us come back. Let us rewind ourselves to subsidy is gone. From that speech to where we are today. What exactly happened? Jeez. We can just break it down and then we'll take it from there.
All right, great. Thanks for having me, ladies. An amazing studio, by the way.
Thank you.
So, what has happened? So, I think we've got to go back to like 2014, 2015, when, because that's really when it started. A lot of people don't know that. That's when we had that very first oil price crash. And Nigeria depends a lot on oil, right? That's really what drives the economy in general. So that happened in 2014-15, just as the Buhari administration was coming in. And so as that happened, a lot of foreign investors just basically jackpot out of Nigeria, right? They took their money out. And so we now saw that exchange rate depreciation that happened. And so there were a lot of reforms that the Buhari administration tried to do. If you remember, exchange rate hit 500 and then later it fell back to 300 and we got into a recession. Anyways, things were stabilizing 2018, 19. If you all remember, exchange rate was like 360 to 1 for a pretty long time. And then COVID hit in 2020. And then everything now went back down again. And so 21, 22, 23 rough years, government revenue dipped, exchange rate, was just topsy-turvy with government and of course the central bank at the time trying to hold it artificially. We had
spent all our savings,
and then of course there was ways and means because we now couldn't really borrow that much. Government wasn't really making that much revenue. So CBN was now bailing out government and we had that ways and means story that went over 20 trillion and we were also over borrowing. And so the current administration came in and it was also a different world, right? So it wasn't a world where they were given a lot of emerging economies like Nigeria or poor economies like Nigeria, a lot of money. And so we had to now go through what they call structural reforms. And so sometimes those reforms can be homegrown, sometimes the reforms can be IMF driven. And so the reforms that we went through was the first subsidy removal, the exchange rate, I don't know what, some people might want to call it depreciation, but it was basically moving towards a more market-friendly exchange rate. And then not just removal of fuel subsidy, but removal of subsidies across. So whether it's fuel subsidy or whether it's electricity subsidy, and more recently now you're going to see telecoms as well, prices taking off. And guess what? It's actually not only in Nigeria though. So this is happening across sub-Saharan Africa. So a lot of people don't realize that. So you tend to think it's just a Nigerian problem, but it really isn't. So it's happening across, but at various degrees of implementation. So I think maybe the problem we have here is that the implementation is like, it's coming really fast and hard. And I'm actually shocked that we were able to survive this the whole of last year. Because I don't know how many times, how many countries could you, like you had fuel price increase last year. You had exchange rate, nosedive, prices of foods and goods and services, everything was just up. And yet we still had a very dirty December. So
when I said survive, the reason I said survive, I said you say it as if we had a choice. What would we have done? But I like that you also highlighted that these issues are issues that many countries, especially sub-Saharan African countries, are going through right now, because a lot of us felt it was just incompetent government administration. So where is it, was there a part of incompetence in either the previous administration, or was there maybe hastiness in some of the policies that were pushed with this administration? What role do you think the administration played in how, the issues we have right now?
So, I mean, it's pretty easy to sit down and just criticize, everyone or people who were there before, people who are currently there. But if you look at the data, you would realize that maybe it could have been a lot better, right? We could have implemented things a lot better. So, under the Buhari administration, the impression that they were given was, look, because we're at the very low fuel price, crude oil price levels, there was a lot of capital outflows out of emerging markets going into the US because of high inflation. And let's also remember that after COVID, a lot of countries started giving out money to their citizens. So that sort of raised inflation rate. And so when that happened, interest rates were high in a lot of countries. Think about it, if you had dollars and America is telling you, bring your dollars and I would give you 6%. Whereas Nigeria is saying, bring your dollars, I will give you 9%. I think you might want to go for America, because even though there's a 3% delta, America is less risk. And so that, capital wasn't coming in. So the Buhari administration now thought, okay, maybe there's so many things they could do. They came up with all sorts of unorthodox policies under Emefiele as CBN governor. As much as some of those things had good intention, they were woefully implemented. And then I think, as we're seeing now with a lot of the cases going on, there was a lot of corruption that did go on. So weren't implemented very well. Now, the current administration has now come with its own version of, reforms. But I think some of the criticisms you see is those reforms were very hard-hitting over a short period of time. And the cushioning effects did not go hand in hand, right? So because typically when you take away subsidy like this, then your local refining should kick in immediately, right? So not this 2-year or 1.5-year lag that we've seen. And even with that, the local refineries still have to fight just so that they can get their products out there, because the cabal still wouldn't want them to come out. So that's where there was a lot of problem. And even the transfers that they were supposed to give to the poor, as much as they did what they could, it wasn't efficient enough, and it didn't really hit a lot of people. And then even if you look at a lot of the subsidy removals as well, whether it's the power sector one, people still, yes, as much as they've now increased electricity prices, a lot of people still weren't getting the benefit of it, and you had so many system collapses. So Nigerians took in a lot, but in return, you're saying to yourself, was it really, is it really worth it on the short term?
We know, some of us know that, there's some form of economic crisis around the world. We compare what we hear from the UK, we compare some things we hear from the US, and now you've added, the sub-Saharan countries, that, this is all happening around us. It's not only us, but, would expect that it's easier on us. We are a major oil producing country. We have recently the CNG. So, and what we believe influences cost of pricing is always cost of transportation, where we rely on this, God gifts that we have, which is petrol. So what can we do as a nation as regards petrol? Because now we have refineries around. Can we compel the local refinery, the private one, let's not mention name, to sell at an affordable rate to Nigerians? Is it possible to compare that? Is it also possible that this CNG alternative, what hope is there in it, reducing anything?
Brilliant question. So the thing is, we're advocates of less regulation and let the market determine prices, right? And as you've seen, when this whole refinery thing started, local refinery started, prices were like 1,001 thereabout. You can see that it's dropped to 900, and I think I saw in the news that it could even drop further, right? So what we need is not compelling refiners to maybe reduce their price or forcing, we don't want that. What the regulators should be doing is making sure that you have more competition, right? So allowing other people to come into that market and play as well. Because when you have more competition, then prices would go down. Then also invest in proper product distribution so that you can have products across various parts of Nigeria. And then that could also help prices.
So if we have 10 more Dangotes,
exactly.
we need more people to come into
well,
the
this is not
industry.
long term.
No, I don't think so. So we've always had modular refineries around.
Yes.
And then we also have our so-called, state-owned refineries. Well, said it's coming back. So so those ones still exist, and so long as they do exist, I think that really have no business trying to force them, to drop price. But one thing that, just to add, that is also out of our control is global crude oil prices, right? Yeah. So when global crude oil prices go up, then
but I think what Nima was probably trying to suggest is, because we own the crude. I mean, I know this is just basic stuff. That can we determine? I know we're part of OPEC before we couldn't, but can we do some kind of drastic things such that we're able to price our own crude? It's ours. Must we align with what OPEC is? Let me go on a very short break. When I come back, I'll let you answer that question. I'll come to BC. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.